faith, believe in your source, have faith.
Welcome to Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs, the podcast that dives deep into the stories of trailblazers who shape our world. Our co-host, Lulu Benavidez, is a seasoned entrepreneur in the beauty industry, is a photographer, artist, and the proud owner of Lulu's The Salon in Galveston, Texas. Our other co-host, Krokonis Hanson, is a visionary in the entrepreneurial world with years of experience in business innovation and development. Together, they bring you insights, inspiration, and the journeys of remarkable individuals who have made their mark. And with that, let's get started. Nicknamed the Bali Lama, Candy Shaw is a globally recognized authority on the balayage education with over 35 years of experience as a hairdresser and educator. As the daughter of a world champion hairdresser, Jameson Shaw, and makeup artist Sarah Shaw, Candy grew up in the beauty industry and now owns Jameson Shaw Hairdressers, a third-generation 50-chair salon in Atlanta, Georgia. Working with a team of assistants, she serves up to 25 clients daily. In 2014, Candy launched Sunlight's Balayage, a professional product line featuring Sunlight's professional balayage lightener and the Bali Box, providing stylists with top-tier balayage tools and education. Today, Sunlight is available worldwide and has been recognized as one of the fastest-growing hair color brands. Candy founded the Academy at Jameson Shaw over 20 years ago, specializing in French cutting and balayage highlighting. She has headlined major industry events, including Hair Expo in Sydney, Australia, and served on the board of Intercoiffure America Canada, earning numerous awards, including Educator of the Year 2018, 2021, NAHA Finalist 2022 and 2025, and Small Business Person of the Year. A frequent industry contributor, Candy has done hair for the Grammys, ACM Awards, Cannes Film Festivals, Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, and many more. Her celebrity clientele includes Carrie Underwood, Miranda Lambert, Karina Smirnov, Todd Chrisley, Annika Sorenstam, and Rascal Flatts. Hailed as one of the most powerful women in the beauty industry, Candy continues to shape the future of hairdressing through education, innovation, and mentorship. She is married to Fred Conner Esquire, and they have 3 children, Jameson, Jesse, and Jenna. Without further ado, let's please welcome in the incredible Candy Shaw.
Well, you know, Candy, we're so happy to have you here today on our podcast, Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. And we want to spotlight the individual. And we want to talk about you and all that you've done. And you were born into some beauty industry royalty. The Shaws.
Yes, we have.
And it's a gold standard within the industry, and everybody knows who Candy Shaw is and who the Shaw family is. So can you tell us and the audience what it was like growing up in your family?
Well, it was a very different lifestyle, no doubt, because our home was always filled with some of the great industry iconic people, from the Horst Reckelbackers to the John and Susie Chadwicks to, Paul Mitchell, the Paul Mitchell. And so I can recall my parents sending me to bed a lot at night, and I would sneak down the stairs and sit on the stairs just to listen to their dinner conversations. Because back then, all these iconic people had no money. So what do? They went and stayed at each other's houses. I mean, it wasn't, this travel around the country in this, beautiful limousine and great hotel rooms. Everybody was just trying to survive and build a wonderful company and or product line. I just remember as a kid how much that really impacted me to become a hairdresser. I started cutting hair when I was 13 years old, and I never looked back, not a day. I went to high school to actually, in my high school, you had a hair code. And so I used to cut people's hair in trade for homework. Figured out ways to just say, oh my gosh, I need your help with my notes or whatever, because I had a learning disability of dyslexia. And so I was like, I'll cut your hair and keep you in hair code if you will help me with my homework. So I scissors as a means of entrepreneurialism, an entrepreneurial spirit, very young age.
Yeah. Well, I always think about you, Candy. I've just always been so in awe of you because you check all the boxes. The stylist, world-class salon owner, celebrity hairdresser, platform mega artist, and then, of course, cutter, colorist, and then, of course, your product line, and of course you're known as the balayage queen. So I'm very interested in all of that. How you think of yourself or how you see Candy Shaw.
Well, I'm so glad you asked me that question because I'm actually working on a thing that I'm doing for a bunch of salon owners, and it's called the butterfly effect. And as I was getting this knowledge in my mind, like, okay, the butterfly effect, how I run my salon, how I can help others learn to do that. I really had to think about that for a minute because I'm like, I'm not a butterfly. I'm a friggin' unicorn. I'm like, unicorn. Like, there are very few people in this industry that are a salon owner, which, by the way, I still work at the chair. I have a 50 chair salon in Atlanta, so pray for me. I, created a product line. I have an academy. I travel and teach. And, so that trifecta of business, keeps me up at night. I got to admit, I mean, it's a lot to take on, but I think what I want to be remembered as the most is, helping the weakest link. And if I can always reach back and bring people up with some kindness and some thought provoking ideas or, try to help them along the journey and the way, that's really, what I want to be remembered for is that testament to leaving this industry better than I found it and giving people solutions to their problems because this industry is so full of challenges. I don't think people really sit around and talk much about that. They all talk about all the great things they're doing and all the cool things. Well, the reality is being an entrepreneur is hard. I always say the only difference in when someone says, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to start something. I go, well, let me just go ahead and tell you that the word entrepreneur is wrong. It should be intramanure.
Yes.
It is a lot to take on, and so as Candy the person, I mean, I'm just an educator. I'm just a hairdresser. I'm just a mom, a grandma, a wife. I'm just like everyone else. And I don't take myself so seriously that I think, just because I have all this makes me any better. I wake up every day trying to be a better version of myself than I was yesterday. And if I accomplish that by the time I go to bed, it's a winning day.
Candy, you still in a salon today and you still work behind the chair because you love what you do and it's obvious. And I know you do 25 people a day.
I do.
So can you tell the audience what it's like being a stylist? Not necessarily an entrepreneur, but working behind a chair.
Well, first and foremost, I think you have to have really great systems. So I don't speak here beating my chest about, oh, how many people you can do in a day. Really, it's not, I'm always about quality over quantity, always. But I developed a French cutting and balayage technique that has really catapulted my business. As a matter of fact, it's tripled our business. And why it's unique is because of the efficiencies of how fast I can work. And of course, I have, a protege, one or two helping me out throughout the day. But I still sweep the floor. I still do shampoos. I still do all that. I don't stand back like a diva and point at things and expect people to bring me things. I do everything everyone else does. But I want to explain why I choose this life. I just feel that being an educator, I have a moral obligation to be my student as much, and to bring to my student what their struggles are. And so I love my approach to the classroom. The classroom is a place where I bring the chair to the classroom and I am able to teach people about those struggles and how to be quicker and faster and more efficient. And so I'm at the chair 2 days a week and I absolutely love it because it allows me to work on my craft. It allows me to perfect skills. It allows me to test products that I'm developing. It allows me to train my team members. And it also allows me to lead by example, and when you have a 50 chair salon, that's a big horse to ride. And for me, being here and being in the trenches with my staff really allows them to see the possibilities. Can I do this in a fast, wonderful way? Great. I mean, that's wonderful to talk about. But I think more importantly, I have perfected the skill of customer service. I've perfected the skill of of great haircuts and amazing colors. And I think that if I can teach people that, it's only going to help my salon grow.
Correct.
Candy, we have a lot of hairdressers, but we also have a lot of non-hairdressers. And I know even before your company and your cutting technique, you were teaching and out there. So can you, in kind of a generic way, describe what you teach, where you teach? And I will add this. Lulu and I both know you are a bona fide road warrior, because you can't do what you do without racking up some frequent flyer miles. Free if you have any stories to throw them in.
Well, I'm going to simplify it really easy for you, Sue. There's a few things I do. I have an academy in Atlanta where I teach French cutting and balayage, which people can find out about looking me up. I also do every single one of the trade shows, and not every one, but of the, the 6 or 7 really big shows. And then I also do distributor events with my distributors that distribute our product. So, and all 3 of those carry a different type of classroom. For instance, my academy is going to be a 3-day course. My road at the trade shows are going to be sometimes an hour to 3 hours. And then my distributor events are going to be 2-day courses. So really, there's a lot to be had. And then, of course, there's YouTube and every other, vehicle that you can use to educate folks with.
I really do hate you, Candy, because with everything that you do, have accomplished, the speed that you go at, I know that you're, a wife, a mother, grandmother. You look fabulous, and I hate you.
Well, such a good hairdresser.
Not fair, because you look
Thank you.
fabulous.
Well, I appreciate that, Sue. Thank you. But I do take really good care of myself. And I do want to tell your listeners that, because with every choice you make, there's a sacrifice that comes with it. We all know that. Time is our only commodity. It's the one thing we own. And people will ask me, how in the world do you travel? I mean, I just came off a 6-weekend road tour. And, how do you do that? I said, it's the power of no. And I say no to a lot of things. And when I go on the road, I go to bed. I am not the girl you'll find at the bar. I'm not the girl you'll find hooting and hollering. I am in bed, and I take really good care of myself. Because I know that work-life balance is super important, but I have a tremendous work ethic. And my father had it. Part of that was growing up with a learning disability. I never went to beauty school. I never went to college, because in Georgia, you don't have to go to beauty school. And the only way I could make it in the world was work my tail off, and so it's just how I'm built. It's my fabric. It's not for everyone. I don't think for 1 minute that it's for everyone. But I would say that if you're out there and feeling overwhelmed, learn that no, doesn't mean never. No just means not right now. And not right now sometimes is what you need to get yourself reset.
You talked about sitting on the steps and listening to your parents talk to these other people, these wonderful people, and that kind of got you into doing hairdressing. I have a little story for you. And we all have these stories, So Paul Mitchell came to my salon to do a class because Neil, at the time, Smokey Neil, had invited him to do that programmatic class. And then my job was to take him to Houston to do a show. So he does his class in my salon. So I get him in the car. We drive to Houston, and he lights up a joint.
Yeah.
And he hands it to me. Well, I'm young. And I, roll up the windows, and I'm like just freaking out. And my children always tell me, Mom, did you know you got high with Paul Mitchell? So, I'm sure you have those stories too.
Oh yeah. We were actually mentioning, my husband and I were talking about this past weekend. We were talking about the difference between the leverage of social media.
God, yeah.
Videos. If there had been videos of backstage antics that were happening when I was passing the pin curl clip to some of these artists, because I spent, much of my teenage years, backstage with my dad. He was a competition hairdresser. So that's what we did. We were traveling, he was teaching, same kind of thing. And watching these people and, the hookups and the, and I'm a young, kid thinking, whoa, okay. But I was fortunate. My parents sent me to France to live for about 6 months of my life and, travel around and sort of meet some of these great iconic people, these European hairdressers. But it was no different over there.
Yeah.
And I had to, the way I think of my daughter, who's 24 years old right now, her safety, like I barely let her drive out the driveway,
Mm-hmm.
My parents were like putting me on planes, throwing me in places. I was by myself, but we took care of each other. Like I know Lee Paul Mitchell, we went to his Abapui farm in Hawaii when I was a kid. And, we hung out there and did things like that. And the community of hairdressers was like nothing. I mean, it was, you were about the mafia. I mean, it was like the hair mafia, but in a good way,
Yeah,
People
correct.
would just pick you up, take you in, feed you meals, help you. It wasn't like it is now, like all the hate and the,
Yeah.
it's not like that anymore.
Candy, you have a lot of humility, and in all honesty, I feel like maybe you did get that from your father, because when I first started going to Intercoiffure a zillion years ago, I was a B member because I was with the manufacturer. And your father was one of the first people who welcomed me. There'd be all these people wanting to talk to him, and he'd come over and talk to me. He'd sit at the table, and it was so inspirational to think, if this is how successful people act, I want in. This is the tribe I want to be with. And I've always been grateful that I got to know him in that way.
Well, thank you. And you're absolutely right. And that is what I aspire every day, to bring more into the industry. I often say we don't have a talent. We don't have a labor shortage. We have a talent shortage, right? So when I grew up, I was around so much talent, because my dad would just practice in the garage. There was no watching a YouTube video. Figure the freaking stuff out yourself. You know what I mean? And they were so kind. Like Intercoiffure is my family, because everybody shares and everybody cares and everybody wants to help you. And, Sue, it's so important that we remember those forefathers and we remember those people who really paved the way, because they're new in our industry, really. If you look at it right now, other than a few little, ingredient things that are happening. But as far as hair goes, I mean, we've all seen it all, done it all. I think the thing that we could bring back is the basics of love and kindness and grace and humility. Because, I always say, people ask me, well, there's all these influencers, how do you feel about these influencers? And I say, well, look, it's great. I think it's awesome. But I'd rather have, instead of having, how many followers I have, I'd rather have believers. There's a difference, between a following and a belief system. And my dad was really big on belief system. He was like the E.F. Hutton of hairdressers. When he spoke, people listened.
Everybody
listened. And, he didn't shoot the crap. He told it straight. And that's just something I've adopted along the way is, I want to help people, but be careful. If you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you the truth. So be aware that if you don't have your big girl panties on, it's not going to work out for us.
Well, Candy, why don't you tell us more about the sunlit balayage that you created? Because I know that I went to one of your classes and years ago, and I learned how to balayage, which was a totally different way of doing highlights. So can you tell our audience about that?
Sure. And basically, I was painting hair before painting hair was cool. And I was actually importing a product out of Europe, and it dried up, no pun intended. It was no longer available. And so I live in Georgia, and the natural resource in Georgia is red Georgia clay. And I knew that they use clay in cosmetics, and I knew that they use clay in printing and in porcelains like China. And I thought, why don't we have clay in a lightener? that would be a really novel idea so that when we paint hair, it wouldn't just dust off and fall off. And so I spent 2 years in R&D developing a lightener, and I'm the OG first to market of the first clay lightener that ever went to market. Now everyone has one, and now I'm also the first to market with the first foil lightener, Moonlights. And it was almost like the thought of Lulu. It was like, okay, we've got all this farm to table. How about farm to hair? And so it just had an idea and, went after it. And I started with one product, and that was Sunlights. And now, we're up in the high 40s of our SKUs at this point. But literally, it just was I was solving a problem of my own. Mm-hmm. I didn't go out and say, let me create a product so I can get rich. That was not it. It was, let me solve a problem because I'm a balayage artist. And I did ask people to come along for the ride. And kind of what I got was, balayage is just a trend. It's going to go away. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's the little black dress. Yeah. And it's not going anywhere. And it's tripled my business and my salon. We're a 90% balayage salon. Mm-hmm. And so Sunlights was just a baby. It was a dream. I took, my own money. I didn't hire, I didn't go raise capital. I'm 100% woman owned, 100% me. And it's been a great ride. And it's been a lot of fun because it's afforded a lot of really cool things to happen in my career. But more importantly, it's helped a lot of people and it's changed a lot of lives.
Yeah, sure has.
I love that Billie Holiday song, God love Mama and God love Papa, but God love the girl who has her own. I love that.
Yeah. I never borrowed money from my parents. Not one day. I never asked them. And, I'm really proud of that, because even though they gave me great things and gifts and things and whatever, but I mean, I'm kind of a street punk in that regard. I don't like anybody to control that. That was something I always wanted to do on my own.
Speaking of control, the one thing, Lulu and I spent a lot of time together corporately, did international, worked with a lot of brilliant marketing people. We just had our good friend Gail Federici from Wow Color on and whatever. But you did the single brightest thing I've ever seen done that I've never seen anybody do successfully. And that is you completely hijacked an entire color, because you cannot look at sunshine yellow and not think
Yes. You travel too much when you're at the airport, and now all the airport people start going, hey, Miss Yellow. Hey, it's okay, because I always fly in yellow. I always have yellow on my body somewhere. And my standard answer, Sue, is, yellow is the color of joy, and for me, yellow is my green. Get it?
Yeah. Yeah. And Candy, you're doing hair for everyone, everything from the Grammys to the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
What was one of your unforgettable celebrities that you've done?
Well, I think I think every guest in my chair is a celebrity. So I will say that, because I really love the people that I get to have a luncheon with every day, quote unquote. It's like throwing a dinner party. But I think that the easiest answer to that question is I did Carrie Underwood's wedding.
Oh, wow.
That was that was a real highlight of my career. And, she was obviously just coming off American Idol and, was rising to fame. And, that was a really cool thing. I also got to do some other, high profile weddings and things of that nature. But, I tried to tell stylists, because a lot of times, people are just so bent out of shape on, I want to do a celebrity and what have you. And I always tell them this, everybody wants to be a guest artist until they realize there's no money in it.
Right.
And I just have to be honest, because I've been around the block. So here's one of those hair ministry moments of mine. And that is that just because you stand on stage does not define success. Just because you do a celebrity, that does not define success. Success to me is the last person I helped and I taught and I and made feel empowered. That's really, you can get wrapped up in that. I mean, I've done some really beautiful things, from Fashion Week to Cannes Film Festival to magazines, Vanity Fair, you name it. But the reality is, a lot of that is very ego driven, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. And it's really helped my career, but I don't hang my hat on it. I don't hang my hat on that. Like, yeah, I've done some great things. I've worked with some great people. But at the same time, I'm just a hairdresser and a human. And I just put my pants on every way, the same way everybody else does. That to heart, because it's a very stickler type of existence. One day you're hot and the next day you're not, So you have to be real mindful that you can't put all those eggs in that basket, right. and just think that's the only way to go. My daddy he had a lot of sayings, and I quote him often. And that was one of the things he would say to me is, don't mess with your stroke. And what he meant by that was like, be good at your skill and let that stroke provide for your life long term. Why I've had a 45-year successful career is because, and it has been sustainable, is I've never lost sight of my stroke. And my stroke is my craft. And my craft is what takes me to anywhere I want to go. Not my ego, not my cute hat on stage, all that kind of stuff. And I think that when you get to a stage in your life, like I remember the moment that I became my dad. I was always Jamison Shaw's daughter. And I remember the moment, it was a turning point for me when I became Candy Shaw, and that was Jamison Shaw was her father. Like I was now in that position, and he was now my father versus me being his daughter. And, I think where I was going with that was just, that to me is the ultimate success, is to feel that you could make your family proud and your parents proud. Like that to me is worth every zero on the end of a paycheck. I think that my dad and my mom, who was a makeup artist, by the way, and my dad's model when he was in competition hair, is that they can look at you and you've actually exceeded what they started.
Exactly.
So cool. Well, Candy, we have this kind of funny little thing we like to do on Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs, because again, our audience really likes to get to know the people. And, if you want to know a good restaurant, you talk to a hairdresser. You want to know the Inn Club, you talk to a hairdresser. You want to know the best place to shop, you talk to a hairdresser. So if you would go along with us, we call it quick fire. And I've got a couple of questions I'd love to ask. Tell us
fire them out.
Yeah. So you're ready to play?
I'm ready.
I'll get my questions at the ready here. What's the best thing that you've done for yourself lately?
Go to the beach.
My favorite. Name 3 things that are still on your bucket list.
Travel to the Maldives. Let's see. An apartment in New York.
Oh,
I would say the last would be have all 3 of my children to all have children. So I can continue to thing up.
Who do you look for inspiration outside of your family, outside of the normal people? Do you have people you follow or people that you really...
Well, God, number one.
Yes, of course.
I would say some of my best mentors are not actually hairdressers or salon owners, even though many of them are. And I would think that I build relationships with great friend groups. And I always surround myself with people that are smarter than I am. And I spend major time with major people and minor time with minor people. So for me, I get a lot of inspiration of people who have already been very, very successful. And then I think also children inspire me because children are so honest and they do the things you're thinking, but you just, you can't do because you'll get in trouble for doing it. So I think children inspire me really a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. What do you do when you get a day off from the beauty business?
Well, I love organizing. I love entertaining. I love to make flower arrangements. I am a great wedding planner. It could be my second
Yeah.
job. So I am always busy because I'm creative. I can't stop. I'm a crafty. I mean, I am like a Martha Stewart. So I don't cook. I love to tell people that because I chop all day, so I'm not going to chop all night, right? Anyway, I don't cook, but I love to entertain. I love to organize. I love to spend time with family. And if I get a great day off, I like to accomplish things. And, and I'm unapologetic about that. I'm just not a sitter.
Yeah.
It's just not my fabric. I can sit around and have a cocktail and read a book for a minute, but then I got to go accomplish something.
Right. Do you have a motto or a quote that you like to share? I know you have lots of your father's quotes. Do you have a particular one that sort of keeps you centered and you like to share with people?
Well, I do have a lot of quotes too, and just hitting me on the rapid fire, the first thing that comes to mind is when you're green, you will grow, and when you think you're ripe, you will rot. And that's just kind of something I live by. Like I said earlier, I just don't take myself so seriously that I think I'm at the finish line, because it's not a destination, It's a marathon. And so for me, it would be probably that.
One life.
Yeah. So, Candy, can you tell our audience where they can find you at?
Absolutely. So the easiest way is at the Bali Lama, just like the Dalai Lama, but the Bali Lama. You can also go on Sunlights Pro website, find about Sunlights and our academy classes. I'm all over Eventbrite, YouTube, Facebook is Candy Shaw, and in Atlanta, Georgia. Just come, walk in the door and say hello.
And that's so true, because you can do that. Well, Candy, you've been such an inspiration to everybody, to all our audience, and we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts, Sue and I. And thank you for doing this podcast, Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. And I know Sue has something going on, but we'll definitely see you at the premiere.
I would love it. Ladies, let me tell you how much I respect the fact that you guys are doing this. Stories need to be told, and I'm so grateful that you found this platform to continue to listen to those stories and hear not only from the new, but the not so news. And, because I think we can all take from each other. So kudos to you and bravo for putting this all together. It was my pleasure being with you today.
Well, thank you so much. We enjoy hearing that, because sometimes it's rough, like
It was on our heart. It was on our heart because Lulu and I have both been in the beauty industry 60 years.
Yeah.
And all of our friends, all of our people, all of our lives. And we just think it's really important. There's so many great people in our industry. So thank you for being one of them.
Hey, my pleasure, and girl power to you.
Yeah, girl power. Thank you.
Ladies.
Yeah, have a beautiful day.
Wow, what an episode. That wraps up another exciting edition of Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you're leaving inspired and ready to chase your dreams. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode over at youtube.com/Artists, Icons, Entrepreneurs, as well as Facebook at Lulu Benavidez, on IG at Lulu Benavidez, at Evolve Hair Solutions as well. And don't forget to visit our website at lulubenavidez.com and evolvehairsolutions.com to stay updated. Until next time, keep dreaming big, creating boldly, and making your mark on the world. Thanks for listening, and take care, everyone.